Gods versus gods, war of the gods. Every polytheistic cult since the dawn of time holds a written or oral mythology that details a group of supreme beings contesting against others within their hierarchy. These battles result in the victors reigning not just over the cosmos, but mankind on Earth. However, the losers are typically bound in a deep, dark prison, attributing to hell itself. All legends are rooted in some level of truth, corrupted by the telephone game of antiquity. The first and most famous conflict is chronicled in the Bible, where a group of gods, angelic beings, rebelled against their creator, the supreme God, Yahweh. This insurrection was over in the wink of an eye, as Lucifer was cast out of heaven as fast as a blast of lightning, an account verified by the most reliable eyewitness ever to walk the earth, Yeshua. What would follow would begin the judgment of the gods, as well as their imprisonment. We see war, as well as the second rebellion of Bene Elohim, mirrored in the Greek folklore of the Titanomachy.
The challenges we face today do not recognize borders. It is time for a unified global effort.
We're 1 mile, 18 minutes away. Athens is the capital of Greece, right?
Yeah.
And you look right there at the Acropolis and the Parthenon and all the temples in there, and this is the first thing people think about when they think about Greek mythology, right? They think of Zeus and Apollo and all those gods, but I don't think people think about the fact that they weren't the first gods. There was the Titans that ruled before them.
That's true. You know, the Titans were like the Bene Elohim, and they sat upon the mountain of congregation to the gods. I believe that you know, Lucifer, this covering cherub, was also the leader of the choirs of heaven, if you will. He was an archangel. Scripture describes him in Ezekiel 28 as having these 12 gemstones built within his golden breastplate like the high priest. And the glory of God would shine through those gemstones and reflect rainbows that filled the heavenlies. The only problem was, one day Lucifer looked down at all the shiny rainbows going out of him, and he thought that glory was his own. He thought it was for him, and pride swelled up in his heart. Scripture tells us that.
Isaiah 14:12, how you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning, how you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations. Ezekiel 28:17, your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to the earth. I made a spectacle of you before kings.
Fortunately, Josh, Lucifer led his 1/3 of angels to rebel against he who sits on the throne on the Mount of Congregation, El Elyon. Now, Revelation 12:3-4 says, and another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great fiery red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 diadems on his head. His tail drew 1/3 of the stars of heaven and threw them to earth. It's crazy.
It is crazy because he had this high position. he makes this choice, right? And now he's in direct conflict with Michael. A third of those angels that were in his dominion, they came down too. But now because he defamed heaven, the highest seat, he's cast down to the earth that he once had dominion over, and him and his fallen go to create as much corruption as possible.
See, Revelation 12 is very interesting because I believe it is a parallel prophecy. People read it and they think it's just talking about the rebellion in the past, but I believe it also parallels the rebellion in the future, where Michael will succeed in taking this dragon and his host of heaven and literally planting them back down on earth. You know, it says in Revelation 12, 7 through 10, "And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail. Nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Then I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ have come. For the accuser of our brethren, accused them before our God day and night, has been cast down."
So this verse pertains to that original confrontation with Lucifer and Michael, and then that ongoing issue that he has with Satan as he's in the second heaven, which is that spiritual realm that's outside of the earth right there, where Satan rules as the prince of the power of the air, and that dominion that he has there has thrones and strongholds and principalities and all of this stuff.
This is really the dimensional state of where the first group of fallen angels and the Bene Elohim resided, because they were cast out of that third heaven. And pretty soon, it says in the middle of the tribulation, that 7-year tribulation, Satan is going to be cast out of that second heaven into the first heaven, which is our realm of time-space, this finite world, and it's excruciating to him. I think he hates it. It's painful being that eternal being, now locked in time-space. And so he goes and he indwells the body of the beast. And the scripture says he goes out in wrath, knowing that his time is short.
That's how I feel in spandex. Revelation 12:12. "Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, because he knows that he has a short time."
There it is, Josh, the Parthenon, temple to the goddess Athena, where we get Athens from, the most iconic visual and well-known worship site in the world, a universal symbol of Western civilization and ancient Greek religion. If you go to the National Mall in Washington, D.C., you see our Judeo-Christian nation has strangely modeled most of our government buildings after this ancient Greek and Roman neoclassical architecture. The U.S. Capitol building, the White House, the Supreme Court, the Jefferson Memorial, they all look like pagan temples. In fact, the Lincoln Memorial is a visual replica of the Parthenon itself. This is not an accident, but an insidious design. Just a quick aerial view of DC and you'll see that the city has been arranged into the shape of a pentagram, a literal demonic porthole made to the second heaven to invite the fallen gods and demons to enter in. To me, the Parthenon is the greatest example of Satan turning the hearts of men away from God, to the gods. But an important spiritual foundation to remember, Satan's dark kingdom is always at odds with one another. His first generation of fallen angels, aka the gods, were promised a seat to rule. Then a second generation of gods, the Bene Elohim, come to earth to fight for that same territory, the high places. Always a throne on top of a mountain, like Athena's temple here.
I heard Athena looks like a dude.
Yes, Josh, but let's learn the story of Satan's War of the Gods mirrored in the Greek story called the Titanomachy.
Matthew 12:25. Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself will not stand.
Well, this isn't the part of the story I really want to focus on, Josh. It really is a preface to the Titanomachy. You know, out of nothing, out of chaos, supposedly the goddess Gaia came forth, existed, and she created the sky, the god Uranus. and she marries him, which is very perverse. She marries him and they have 12 children known as the Titans. They actually have 3 Cyclops children as well, and the Hetatoncheires, these 100-hand giant things. But eventually Uranus, he doesn't like these bizarre giants and children. He imprisoned them in the heart of the earth known as Tartarus, which is actually Gaia's womb. It's really bizarre.
Okay, hold on. I think I know this story.
Okay.
Is this where then Gaia asked her 12 children to go castrate Uranus? And they're all too scared to do it, except for Kronos. And he grabs the sickle that she hands him, and castrates him, and he grabs his stuff and throws it into ocean, and then a whole race of giants is born?
It's really disgusting, but that's the same story I'm talking about. You see how sick and perverse Satan's plans are in trying to pervert mankind's knowledge? Because he takes the sky god, which is supposed to be El Elyon, Uranus, and he makes it he's this really wicked, perverse, domineering faction on the earth. And so then he ends up with Kronos, leading this group of gods, these titans, against this new group of gods, and that's the Titanomachy, gods versus gods. I believe it's really kind of his perverse perspective on the judgment that occurred to the Bene Elohim and the Nephilim after God punishes them, casts them down, and imprisons them in Tartarus.
This is another reason why I'm completely against castration. I will stand by this. It's a bad idea. I don't like sickles either. 1 Enoch 9. And then Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel looked down from heaven and saw much blood being shed upon the earth, and all lawlessness being wrought upon the earth. And they said to the Lord of the ages, Lord of lords, God of gods, King of kings, and God of the ages, Thou seest what Azazel has done. Who hath taught all unrighteousness on earth, and revealed eternal secrets, which were preserved in heaven, which men were striving to learn? And Simjaza, to whom thou hast given authority to bear rule over his associates. And they have gone to the daughters of men upon the earth, and have slept with the women, and have defiled themselves, and have revealed to them all kinds of sins. And the women hath borne giants, and the whole earth has thereby been filled with blood and unrighteousness. I know that the book of Enoch is not the gospel, but I guess kind of like Greek mythology gives us a hint or an idea. The book of Enoch can give us an idea of what's going on during that time period, right? These Bene Elohim have sex with human women, right? And this perversion creates an outcry from the archangels who are calling out to God, right? Say, hey, these fallen Bene Elohim, they need to be judged. And so he comes up with a very specific judgment for them.
That's crazy. That is a crazy story. But back to the Titanomachy, because Kronos is ruling as this terrible dictator now. And what happens is his father, before he dies, Uranus, gives him a prophecy that someday his children would turn on him, because he knew that he had just taken his throne. So Kronos decides to swallow his children at birth. I'm sure his wife Rhea doesn't like this. Swallow 12 children. Well, first it's actually 11 children, because she takes the 12th child, Zeus, and hides him on the isle of Crete in a cave. He's raised by nymphs, and when he's old enough, he pretends to be a servant in Kronos' throne room. He brings him a goblet of wine that's poisoned. When Kronos drinks that, he throws up these Olympian children, which are like, Ares and Athena and Hera and all this. And now Zeus rallies these Olympians to war against the Titans. 12 Titans versus 12 Olympians. That's the Titanomachy. It's a 10-year war of the gods.
This story is crazy.
Messed up.
How did you even come up with that idea?
1 Enoch 10, 9-10. And to Gabriel said the Lord, proceed against the illegitimates and the reprobates, and against the children of fornication, and destroy the children of fornication, and the children of the watchers from amongst men, and cause them to go forth. Send them one against the other, that they may destroy each other in battle.
So Josh, this account in the book of Enoch that I just read, the offspring of the Bene Elohim, these giants go to war against each other. They're fighting, they're killing each other off. That wasn't the chief judgment that God had doled out that he promised to Noah. It was going to come with the flood, and it was going to be harsh. but he also had a special judgment that was in store for the Bene Elohim, such as Simjaza, their leader. It says in verse 12 through 13, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, till the day of their judgment and of their consummation, till the judgment that is forever and ever is consummated.
Well, it's interesting because we do find in the book of Revelation, it's saying that they were bound on earth, and that when they're released, this rage that they have from being bound, they take revenge on the earth, right? Yeah. They go and they find the Nephilim, their illegitimate children that they've created, and they go with war to mankind.
Wipe mankind off the face of the earth?
Oof. Just don't have dirty copulations with demons.
Road trip time, Josh. It's time to head southwest through the Peloponnese Peninsula to the mythological entrance to the underworld itself. We're going to the gateway to Hades at the Aleppo-Trippa Cave, aka the Caves of Diros.
Revelation 9:13 through 15. The sixth angel trumpeted, and I heard a single voice from 4 horns of the golden altar before God. It said to the sixth angel, the one holding the trumpet, release the 4 angels who are bound to the great river Euphrates. So the 4 angels who had been prepared for the hour and day and month and year were released to kill 1/3 of mankind.
Well, brother, without any context, this scripture in Revelation can be kind of confusing. But you got Peter, disciple to Jesus. You have Jude, Jesus's earthly brother, both teaching that the Bene Elohim will face punishment for their sins in the end. Jude 1:6, and the angels who did not keep their proper domain, but left their own abode, he has reserved in everlasting chains under darkness for the judgment of the great day. 2 Peter 2:4, for if God didn't spare angels when they sinned, but cast them down to Tartarus and committed them to pits of darkness to be reserved for judgment.
Isn't it interesting, Josh, that Tartarus is mentioned? You know, this was the darkest depths of hell. Even in Greek mythology, it must be a real place. And it's interesting that you find in mythology that Zeus imprisons the Titans after the conclusion of a 10-year Titanomachy, the war of the gods, in this place of Tartarus. But in the book of Enoch, this chief ringleader of the Bene Elohim, Azazel, is imprisoned in a place called Dudael, which is like a desert place. It's even lower, more terrible than Tartarus.
So you have a Tartarus and you have a Dudael.
Yes.
And you have tartar sauce that tastes like duty.
1 Enoch 10. Then said the Most High, the Holy and Great One, spake to Raphael, bind Azazel, hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness, and make an opening in the desert, which is in Dudael, and cast him therein, and place upon him rough and jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness, and let him abide there forever, and cover his face, that he may not see light. And on the day of the great judgment he shall be cast into the fire.
This is an epic view, little brother. It's crazy to think that we are walking over the Diros caves, the caves that are the gateway to the underworld, the river that leads to Tartarus, that lowest point where the wicked go forever in Greek mythology. I think it's so crazy that Azazel is so called out by Enoch when you read the book of Enoch for how bad he is and how evil he is and how he's committed all these atrocities. In fact, I quote, and the whole earth has been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel. To him ascribe all sin.
I know many people may be up in arms and they say Azazel is apocrypha. It's not in the Bible, it's not in scripture. Actually, he is in the Bible. It's very interesting because there are many mistranslations in the Bible from Hebrew to English. If you could read Hebrew, then when you're reading in Leviticus about the high holy days, the 7 feasts of the Lord, you read in the great day of atonement, Yom Kippur, he rears his ugly head.
Leviticus 16:7-8. He, Aaron, shall take the 2 goats and present them before the Lord at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. Then Aaron shall cast lots for the 2 goats, and 1 lot for the Lord, and the other lot for Azazel, the scapegoat.
Isn't it interesting, Josh, that The name Azazel, it's a given name, is replaced in scripture when it's referencing the scapegoat. They just invented this name, scapegoat, instead of using that name because it's prescribed to the Apocrypha. For some reason, they didn't like that. But when you look at the ceremony of the scapegoat that occurs in Leviticus, you know, the lots were cast, and this scapegoat, this Azazel, all the blame of the sins of the people of Israel were placed upon his head. And it's interesting, in Enoch it says, to him, Azazel, ascribe all sin. So he was taking that sins, yet he was going off scot-free. The innocent goat, the Lord's goat, was the one that was sacrificed for the sins of the people. He was pure and spotless. And most people think that Yeshua is the scapegoat. No, that goat took all the blame for the sins, but he got to go off. They ended up chasing that goat away into the desert place, into Dudael, just like Azazel. So that whole ceremony is about the watcher, the Bene Elohim Azazel, where he's imprisoned in Dudael, but that scapegoat has been imprisoned in the desert. It's crazy.
There's so much to this story. This place is a crazy place, but the story isn't over yet because Enoch literally has a job to do, and he seems raring to do it.
Yes.
He goes out there and he starts calling down what he sees, right? He blames the Nephilim.
Yeah.
He actually calls out the Bene Elohim for their sins, those watchers that you've been talking about. He's like, you've been having sex with women. You've been doing this. You've been doing that, but they had to. Like, it had to be called out so that they could be judged, and he was the one that rose to the occasion.
That's right. Only God's prophets could do that.
And somehow we only got like a verse in the Bible. Like, I want to know what really went on with this guy. All the verses.
All right, Josh, it's time to head back to Athens, to the ancient Agora, the commercial center and gathering place for the city. It was also the location of many temples to the gods.
1 Enoch 12. And I, Enoch, was blessing the Lord of majesty and the King of the ages. And lo, the good watcher said to me, Enoch, thou scribe of righteousness, go declare to the fallen watchers of heaven, who have left the high heaven, the holy eternal place, and have defiled themselves with women. Ye have wrought great destruction on the earth, and ye shall have no peace, no forgiveness of sin.
Now, Josh, the Bene Elohim, the fallen ones, their story pretty much ended there in Scripture, and they don't show up again until the book of Revelation, toward the end, actually, of the tribulation when they're unleashed from their prison. I find this the same with the Greek Titans. These Titans, they were the golden age of Greece. And then when the Olympians conquered them, their importance was quickly diminished. I mean, I was looking all around here, so many temples for the temple of Kronos and Rhea, I heard was around there, but it's so tiny I can't find it anywhere. Not like the giant temple of Hephaestus. The Titans were forgotten.
Yeah.
It was all about the Olympians.
Wasn't it possible, I guess, that Kronos could have been a representation of Azazel?
Azazel.
Yeah, and Shemiyama in Enoch's story, and that maybe these Bene Elohim, right? They come with this last-ditch effort to Enoch's trying to get spared from judgment, right? And they're trying to get him to go to Elion and say, hey, go on our behalf, get us saved.
1 Enoch 13. And Enoch went and said, Azazel, thou shalt have no peace. A severe sentence is gone forth against thee to put thee in bonds, and thou shalt not have toleration nor request granted to thee, because of the unrighteousness which thou hast taught, and because of all the works of godlessness and unrighteousness and sin which thou hast shown to men. Then I went and spoke to them, and all fallen watchers together, and they were all afraid, and fear and trembling seized them. And they besought me to draw up a petition for them, that they might find forgiveness.
Josh, we don't know if that passage in Enoch was actual history. You know, the book of Enoch isn't scripture. It was an oral tradition that was passed down, but it wasn't put pen to paper until 3rd century BC. But the themes in there are what's important, you know, the ideas of what's going on. And we find those same themes, you know, such as Enoch being raptured. We know that's scriptural, and him being a prophet, you know, of the end times, declaring those things that are going to happen. And I just think that, you know, it has to be important Enoch's legacy. Otherwise, Jude, the brother of Yeshua, would not have quoted, word for word, an actual prophecy of Enoch.
That's a good point. I side with Jude.
Jude 1, 14 through 15. Now Enoch, the seventh from Adam, prophesied about these men, also saying, Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000s of his saints to execute judgment on all, to convict all who are ungodly among them, all their ungodly deeds which they have committed in all ungodly way, and all of the harsh things which ungodly sinners have spoken against him.
Enoch, this guy, all right, I've always loved him, but the more we study him, the more my mind is blown, right? He's the first person to ever receive a prophecy of the second coming of Armageddon, right? Of the saints riding in with Yeshua. This guy's pre-flood, okay? His time period in history is so far back, yet he sees this because he becomes the one that represents that first covenant, that Old Testament time period, right? What I think is so interesting about the fact that he sees this is that he was the first ones to kind of be the hall monitor to report the watchers. Like, the watchers are doing something they shouldn't be doing, sir. And he's going to come back again. We're going to see in Revelation, I think it's 9:14, that he comes back when they rise again, and he's going to fight and head-on clash with them again.
I think it's very interesting. Not only do I believe that he's going to clash with those Bene Elohim when they're unleashed from their prison at the river Euphrates, but he is going to combat them because he's one of the two witnesses.
Exactly.
He was taken up to heaven. He never died. So he's going to come back down with Elijah the prophet, who we know is one of those witnesses, and he's going to be prophesying judgment against the watchers again when they come with that 200 million man army to destroy 1/3 of mankind. They aren't going to be able to touch those two witnesses till the end of the tribulation. They're going to be causing havoc everywhere. But hey, Enoch is the one. And I believe Hebrews 9, 27 through 28 declares that.
Hebrews 9, 27 through 28. And it is appointed for men to die once, but after this judgment. So Christ was offered once to bear the sins of many. To those who eagerly wait for him, he will appear a second time, apart from sin, for salvation.
This story of judgment isn't over yet. The Watchers may be in prison, but their offspring, the Nephilim, they are about to face the greatest judgment in the history of the world, the flood.
Hey, before we tell that story, we got to go to the location that I believe is an important parallel or comparison to that. I say we head to the port of Piraeus in Athens and hop a ferry to go to the island of Crete and tell the true story of the kingdom of Atlantis.
Stay with Atlantis?
Yeah.
Is this why everybody keeps been calling you Aquaman lately? Hey, it's Jason Momoa. Look over there teaching the Bible.
There's a lot of resemblance here. Okay? Yeah.
So Momoa-ish.
All right.
Okay, I see what's happening.
Next week on the Bearded Bible Brothers.
Well, here we are in Knossos on Crete.
The center of Atlantis was actually in the island of Santorini. And the islands that have broken off around it, there's a cauldron there, which is an active volcano.
Literally, that polluted Nephilim bloodline is what helped create this advanced technology that you have here.
I was going to say that. I actually knew that one.
You did not know that.
Kind of knew it.
You know the Bearded Bible Brothers is an outreach of Zola Levitt Ministries? That means we are entirely donor funded. Consider giving at levitt.com. You can also join the Bearded Bible Bonanza to access additional content at patreon.com/beardedbiblebonanza. Please support our mission to spread the gospel of Yeshua by subscribing to our social media and sharing our online messages. And as always, pray for the peace of Jerusalem.